Welcome to learning how to make a pizza with Steve.
Oh, and I'm Riley.
The recipe on Pizza app. They don't pay me, but it is the thing that I use to make my pizza calculations, and they give you a nice formula to make it easy to figure out how much you should be making. So you can follow exactly my formula if you want. That'll give you like 1,600 grams worth of flour worth of dough, or you can do your own thing. A few things that it's helpful to have. The first is some flour. I prefer 00 flour, and it's going to be a much more finely grated flour. You can use all-purpose flour if you want. I use a little bit of honey. I'm going to be using this active dry yeast. Whether you have different kinds of yeast will affect things differently. So the Pizza app thing will let you select if you're using a different kind of yeast. I have my high-quality olive oil in this decanter, in this little pour thing. And then I have some fine kosher salt in here. So when it says fats on the menu, they're talking about, in our case, we're using olive oil. So
lipid.
I also have this cheap kitchen scale because if you want to do any kind of calculations in your kitchen, you should be doing it by weight and not by like volume of space taken up, because of course different consistencies of different kinds of things will fill up different amounts of space. Oh my gosh. Why don't you do the setting up of 22 grams of salt? Oh my, you maniac, that's 24 grams. Okay, very quickly, hold on. You did it. So, yeah, we're just gonna use this plate.
That's not a plate.
Well, it's a dish.
You're a dish.
Thank you. Next is 886 grams of flour.
This one's going to be pretty hard to mess up. Please stop.
886. It's going to be all that and then some. There we go. So we need about 160. Come on, you did all the rest. 886.
That's good. Ow!
Sorry. What are you doing? You're not even wearing any kitchen shoes. You do the crime, you pay the time.
What temperature?
Pretty warm is the answer. I've read that I can kill my yeast with really hot water, but then I've also read that my water should be 120 degrees, so lately I've just been making it warm.
Perfect!
Perfect! If you don't know about baker's weights, they will tell you as a percentage of the weight of flour how much water you're going to put in. So I'm at like 80% water. That's a pretty high water content in pizza crust, but I like the way it turns out with the bubblies and the texture and all of that.
I did a little too much. How do I get
Whoa. Let's get another container that is clean. Nope. I'm like Gordon Ramsay, but with none of the talent. Now, return to the mixing bowl. You can 100% do this in...
with your hands.
What we're going to do is...
710, okay?
Can you just try to get... Oh, we're at 709. It's supposed to be 709. 710 is fine. So we've got... So now you're going to incorporate the water into the...
Do I like fold
flour. You're not going to be able to fold it. Your job is just to
mix it?
Dampen everything.
All the flour?
Yeah, but don't get it above here on your hands. The idea is not to take out a bunch of flour while you're doing this.
Okay.
So it may be tricky, but it's doable. So we'll just pour in all of the water. And then you can dip your hands in this water. Gross. What we want is for the flour to absorb all of the water. We're going to leave it for a few minutes. And then the next phase will be to add in the other ingredients while we mix. Okay, but you're going to have to be a little more efficient than that. So like pull from the sides and folding over to try to get the stuff that's not
okay, well, let me get it off my fingers.
You're just going to get them dirty again. Don't get it off your fingers.
Okay. Like that?
Yep, your job is to find all of the dry flour and get it into the mix.
Don't be scrapey. Just be
You
patient.
you can make pizza dough with salt, flour, and water.
That sounds weird.
But it would take you a little while.
Is that just
if you add
making
yeast,
sourdough bread?
If you add yeast, it will move faster, and that's going to be the Neapolitan style crust that is more like a cracker. I prefer the Roman style or the northern style of crust. There are like fancy ways of doing this where you put just yeast and water and you kind of let it foam up for 10 minutes or like come alive, activate the yeast, etc. I found that with the active dry yeast and this way of doing it doesn't really matter. Another way to do it is you just let it sit with water and flour for like 15 minutes. When I'm baking bread, I let it incorporate a lot longer, but this is a fairly speedy process and it works just fine like this. So we're going to just dump in all the things. Here, you can do this.
I can do the lipids.
You can add the lipids. It's delicious. It's good. I mean, if your olive oil is not...
Can I just turn on the mixer
If
now?
your olive oil is not good enough to drink straight from a little cup,
I don't like drinking olive oil.
it's not good enough to eat. The very lowest setting.
They can't even see what's going on.
I mean, I think they've seen a mixer before. Would you like to tell a joke while it's mixing?
I don't have any jokes.
I have a joke.
Okay.
Two fish are in a tank. One turns to the other and says, "Hey, do you know how to drive this thing?" That's a great joke though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I let it go for a while, maybe like 10 minutes. We're making this video because we appreciate the backers on Kickstarter. This is serious.
I know, I'm just tired.
We're making this video because we appreciate the backers. We're making this video because we appreciate the backers on Kickstarter, and we want your pizza to be, well, it's not going to be as good as this.
You should
pizza.
make a hashtag. For
Hashtag
Steve Capone's Pizza on any social media.
Capone Pizza.
Okay, hashtag Capone's Pizza.
Yeah, sure. Capone's
on
Pizza.
any social media platform. Like
is my lifelong dream. Apart from writing a good book in every genre, my lifelong dream is
to have a hashtag.
To open a pizza shop. No, not to have a hashtag. It launches March 8th at the Printed Garden in person, and we're going to do TikTok Live
I'm going to be there.
Using Riley's camera skills and this tripod thingy-do. Just get up. Just don't be on it. Fine. Okay. This video is for our exclusive, not going to be recorded, but going to be put out live. We're going to do this privately. So I don't know what platform we're going to use yet for our webcast for the virtual book release party for our backers, but we are going to do February 27th. It's a Tuesday. We're going to do our virtual launch event at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 7:30 Eastern Time. And then we'll start with a little introduction, plus reading, plus Q&A. And then at 6 o'clock our time, Mountain Time, we're going to start stretching, flipping, topping our pizzas and popping them in the oven. You'll want to make sure when we do that your oven is preset almost as high, probably as high as it'll go. I don't know. I put mine on convection at 550, and that's pretty great.
And make sure your dough is pre-made.
Yeah,
obviously.
You should do this part the night before. If you're using Pizza App, again, I wish maybe they'll pay me, but they probably won't. If you have Pizza App, then you can just you can make it the morning of if you really wanted to make dough that morning, and you could just set number of hours at the room temperature in your house and just leave it out. Event number 1 is the in-person and TikTok Live launch at 7 p.m. Mountain on March 8th, 2024 at the Printed Garden in Sandy, Utah. The second event is March 15th, a Friday at 5 p.m. in Brigham City, Utah at Three Goats Gruff, near the, what is that, Utah State up there. The next one is March 23rd, a Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Book Garden in Bountiful. Then April 9th, which is a Tuesday night, at the Brigham City Public Library at 7 p.m. There's like a multi-author speed dating meet an author plus Q&A plus signing event that's happening there. We're working with some shops in southern Idaho and in central Salt Lake City. It's looking like the Legendarium probably during April, the King's English for June. So that's it. So I hope to see you at one of those events if you're local. If you're a Kickstarter backer, please tell me that. There's no expectation that you buy anything at those events. Just show up and be supportive and be awesome and say hello and meet the shop owners. We're going to check on our dough right now.
Period.
What?
Like when you're done, you say period.
Let me do this part, please. So with a damp hand, you can just kind of make a cup and scrape around the outside to make sure that you're not leaving any of the bits and particles behind. But I actually think that because Riley did such a good job of incorporating at the beginning, there's not so much like stuff left over on the sides.
Period. It's a beast. Uh-oh. Oh, it's really... Shouldn't you put olive oil on?
No.
Don't you always do that?
Nope.
Do you put olive oil on top?
I do a little bit of olive oil on top. What are you doing? Talk about me being weird. You're like painting your face with the dough. So here's our dough. Okay. Great. Just great. The next one I'm going to do.
I put a smiley face in the dough.
I have a dough container for rising, but I don't know where it is.
Oh, I know where it is.
You do? I'm going to use the same measurements, except I'm going to decrease the amount of yeast since it's not going to be in cold storage overnight. It's going to be right out here. So 886 flour grams. $886 grams. Fats, 27 grams. Lipids, 27 grams. Salt, 22 grams. 22 grams. Yeast, we're only going to use about 2 grams of yeast, which is going to be essentially immeasurable on our scale. So I need 709 grams of water. 709 grams. We have all of our other ingredients prepped. Let's incorporate.
He does it so much faster.
Scrape along the sides, basically. Don't do that. Listen, if you ever want to be lead camera on one of my projects after I get famous, you're not going to mess around. Okay, that is incorporated, mostly. I mean, I guess it's soaked in there. What are you doing?
I'm showing them you're talking.
Oh, great. Can you make sure you're showing the dough? You're great. You're doing great. Camera one is definitely our best camera. Okay, put it on me, please. When your hands get sticky, you need water, and that's going to get all that stuff off your hands. Okay, let's go back to this.
Got it.
Do anything?
I don't think so.
I got it now. Okay. We're going to do, what, 2 grams of that. Probably I just put 3 grams in, but that's fine. Salts, fats, oh, sorry, lipids. We're going to put the dough back in here when we're done. On low. Voila, c'est bon. We're just going to dampen our hands so that we can pull away from the edges. It's coming together pretty well. Okay. We're done. I have wet hands. Pull this out. It's going to get big. It's easier with a bigger one. You can cover your dough with a lid like this. You can cover it with a cloth. Doesn't really matter as long as it's not as long as it's not exposed to the air. Air is allowed to get in. You don't have to airtight seal it every time, but we don't want it just sitting open because all the moisture will evaporate out of the dough. And I've never made the mistake, so I can't tell you how terrible it would be, but I'm sure it would be quite terrible. So we're going to put this up here, that there, and that's the end of our video. Ta-da! You should take a bow. Ta-da! Okay, what I'm going to do here is a little voiceover action because, you know, the mark of a great filmmaker is voiceovers. I think I learned that from adaptation. I'm just turning out the dough on a well-floured surface, and I have a neat little red divider that my dad sent me, a dough divider there. You can see it on my right hand. That's the hand of an expert. And cut this giant dough structure into 3 parts, and those will be 3 separate dough balls, and we will leave those out for a little bit, and they're going to do kind of a final rise or a final proof. They're being shaped here. You can see that I'm kind of folding around and in toward a center, and don't be afraid to add more flour as you go. And then at the end, I just cover with olive oil, kind of paint it with the olive oil, and here I'm separating the second and the third, and shaping those again by folding in and placing them each in their own little bowl there, painting the top with some really good olive oil, and then going to cover them. And I just am placing a cover on top. They're in their final proof. This is now, okay, we skipped ahead. It's maybe an hour later, maybe 2 hours later. They are puffed up a bit more. And again, floured surface. Got my little, you see my bread divider there. It also just is awesome for cleaning up flour. Do not use your sponge for the flour. It will destroy any possible use of that sponge. So shaping it, flattening out a little bit, and then I'm going to get rid of the bubbles just by pressing down in the center. Now here you could use a rolling pin if you want to, but this thing is a little bit overproofed to the point where if I rolling pin it out, it'll just kind of flatten out and disintegrate. So I'm not doing that. I'm just going to use my hands and press it out to get rid of those bubbles. And shape the edge of the crust there. Now the pizza pans I'm going to use are pretty cheap. They came in the mail for like $7 or $10 a piece, and just a little toss there. You know, the motion is hand to wrist, hand to wrist. If you watch when I do each of these 3, you'll see that I'm basically pulling one hand across to stretch out, and we'll do this live as well. I figured it would be good. I didn't want to just stop by putting up the video of like, here's how you make the dough, but then you're SOL if you don't show up to our live event. I actually wanted to show you how I stretch out the dough and top it. And again, plenty of flour, and then pressing down, pressing out all of those bubbles. And then I'm just going to gently take it and roll it, really just like toss across my wrists. So let's watch and see how this goes. Actually, maybe it is so proofed that this one I didn't stretch out. We'll see. No. Oh, hey, a little toss there, and make it fit the pan. One thing to note, cheese will pull away from the edge, so top it with, if you're putting cheese on your pizza, which, my God, please put cheese on your pizza, you'll want to cheese all the way out to the edge, because as it heats up and melts, it'll pull together toward the center. So you don't want to stop far from the edge. You want to go right up to the edge, if not dripping over, because it'll pull itself back. So I'm pressing out this third dough. And the cheese that I use, I do a 50-50 mix of fresh mozzarella and I always forget the name of that cheese, provolone. And I will grate the provolone with the big hole part of the grater, and I will cut the mozz, and that 50-50 mix makes for really, really delicious. Oh yeah, introverted but willing to talk about Magic the Gathering. If you know me, you know this is true. And here's my third tray. Little toss, because honestly, these things, it really blew up. I think I had used, earlier in my video, I used like 9 grams of yeast. So this thing rose that day very quickly. I didn't even put it in the fridge. It was done within maybe 4 or 5 hours, and it was huge. So I was a little bit, I was a little extra. And here you see, I have some old provolone, and I'm just going to cut off the edges because I don't want it to be dry and weird. So I cut off the edges. Don't forget to true your blade. I actually don't know if I'm a pro at this yet. I try. And yeah, there's still, what I'm worried about here is there is a nick in the blade. This is one of my Japanese blades, and I just have to ask, who was using my finest steel? And right, so grate that provolone, spread it evenly over your pizza. Let's speed it up here. I'm going to press the fast forward button. And we're at 500% speed. That's the fresh provolone right there. Careful you don't nick your fingers, as I do almost every time. You don't want to put part of your finger in the pizza. That is not prime topping. And okay, so I put olive oil on, I painted it on, you watched me paint it on, and then I always try to get some fresh garlic. Today I didn't have the time to get there, so I try to put fresh garlic on every pizza, finely minced, and I usually grab like some fresh basil. We always have basil growing in the summer. In this case, I used a dried Italian seasoning blend because it is February, and that's what I had. So I used that. I had happen to have some green onions here on hand, so chop those things up. It's the first time I ever used those as a topping. You know, this is the thing about when you make a lot of pizzas, you might change it up here and there. The dough I don't change up very much. Oh my gosh, Nova, what is going on? What are you upset about? Okay, sorry, the dog is, she's upset. She's upset about something. So you get that mozzarella on there. We've got these green onions. And my wife loves when I add tomatoes, so tomatoes are going to be next. And we will get a look at the final product here in just a moment. Add those tomatoes. Nova, you're going to be okay. We're just making a little video for the backers. It's for the backers, Nova. And we're almost here. We're at the final stages. We've got those tomatoes. I like to try to get some of the water out of them because really you don't want watery tomatoes all over your pizza. I actually think Roma tomatoes work a lot better than these big boys that we're using today because the Roma tomatoes have lower water content, and I really just don't want to be draining the water right onto my pizza. There are some little cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes. I basically use what I have. Of course, it looks fancy if you get some heirloom tomatoes, but hey, it's all good. Last couple things. I think here I'm just adding some grated Parmesan that I got from the store earlier that day. And we actually have 3 kinds of cheeses. Looking pretty good. Oh, hey, there's Quinn. He's looking for a little treat. He's not going to get one. So 12 minutes in the oven at 550, and you get something like this. Yay. I have to say, this pizza was a big hit. Everybody seemed to like it. I ate it for, well, hey, let's not lie, the next 5 meals straight, and also I made 3 more pizzas the next night. And you want to wait a little bit for the cheese to cool, and yeah, then you're ready. It's ready, man. Just a little wrap up. I hope that the video was helpful for teaching you a little bit of the practical side of how to make pizza. This is now 11 days prior to the virtual launch, which will happen on February 27th. I'm recording this, and I just want to say thanks. I've sent out, for everybody who has responded in the survey, your book is already in the mail. You will get it, if USPS is at all accurate, 4 days before our virtual launch. And anybody who responds to the survey in between now and virtual launch on February 27th, which is just for Kickstarter backers, by the way, but anybody who sends me the survey, you will get your EPUB/PDF, whichever you prefer. You'll get that pretty much right away so that you can be reading the book before we actually do our virtual launch. I wish I could have the book in everybody's hands, but we need everybody to respond to that survey. I really just want to say thanks, and hopefully the pizza video was fun and entertaining, and that you laughed at my kid as much as I did while I was editing this video. Official launch of the book is March 8th at the Printed Garden and on TikTok Live. We may also do a Facebook Live And then there are other events that I mentioned during the video. Thank you and good night.